Hey traders, welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Forecast and Outlook. As per usual, we're going to be starting with the Dixie. Let's get right into it. So on the weekly time frame, we know that our last break of swing structure was at this point. Then, if we take our 50% area, we're going to see that price has already tapped into the discount. And since tapping into the discount, we've broken the internal structure at this point. So we broke internal structure. And since we broke internal structure, price has practically been pulling back into this extreme demand here on the weekly time frame. Alright. So currently this is where we're at right now. And we're going to scale down to the lower time frame to see what we're dealing with exactly. The daily time frame, what we see here is that we actually have the break of daily swing structure here occurred. So we can see that this mini leg of price action on the weekly time frame is actually the swing leg of price action on the daily time frame. All right. Now, if we mark out this leg, we're going to see that we're already in the discount zone, and currently we're in a daily demand zone, something I like to call overlap zones, simply because it exists within a higher time frame zone. Okay, so they're usually very high probability turning points in the market. Here we see sort of like a demand chain. So currently we're seeing some sensitivity from this daily demand zone. Of course, at the moment, the only way we can determine that the pullback may have ended is if we have a change of character at this point, or price goes on to break internal structure. All right, whichever one you're more comfortable with using as a confirmation, right? So if we scale down to the 4-hour time frame, what we have is that this was our last break of swing structure to the downside, right? So 4-hour swing structure is currently bearish, and you can see that the break of internal structure that we could possibly look for would be a break of swing structure on the 4-hour. So currently this is a strong swing high. The reason it's a strong swing high is because it broke structure at this point. So the expectation is that even if we do pull back into this area, we're going to end up breaking this weak swing low. All right. But currently, this is what we have. We haven't exactly started the 4-hour pullback yet, at least not according to my mechanical way of determining pullbacks, right? So currently we're still basically trading sort of like in a continuation phase. So we haven't exactly started the pullback. However, as soon as we do see a change of character, I would love to see something of this nature, or even preferably a breakdown of this supply here. Okay? And then I'm going to start looking for any one of my models to confirm the start of the pullback to potentially catch short-term longs into this premium area for a potential continuation. But of course, because of the higher time frame picture that we have right now, it's always a possibility that we could end up taking this high, right? But the rule of thumb at FX Citadel is to respect structure and follow current order flow. Don't worry about the rest of it, right? And basically let the lower time frames guide you if you need to. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much that for the Dixie. Let's move over to GBPUSD, my pair for days. Okay, so on the weekly time frame, as we already know, this was our swing break of structure, and we have been in a pullback ever since we changed character at this point. All right, now so far we've pulled back into this weekly supply, and we already know that from this point, price went on to break internal structure on the weekly time frame. All right. And so far, we've been in a pullback into the premium area of this leg of price action right here. Okay, this particular leg, we've been in a pullback, right? Now, so far, we are still pretty much within this weekly flip zone here that we talked about in the last video, right? As you already know, the reason it's a flip zone is because it's the last supply zone that caused the failure of this demand zone here. So that's exactly why it's a flip zone. Now we have been seeing some sensitivity after this large push up. We've seen some sensitivity, and now we've seen sort of like an indecision candle, right? So what that means is that the market might actually be getting ready to make a move from this point, but we don't quite know yet. Okay, now if we scale down to the lower time frame, the daily time frame, this was our last break of swing structure, and so technically we've put back into the daily premium area as well. And what we have so far on the daily time frame is that we haven't broken the internal structure. Remember from the previous video we talked about this. Now initially we were looking at the possibility of price possibly breaking the internal low at this point. That was when we had this bullish internal break of structure here, and we retested because we always respect order flow. So we pushed up and we broke internal structure again. So if we're going to look to play the shorts, the best policy would be to wait until there's a break of internal structure to the downside, until this strong demand zone here that causes push up fails. All right, and then we can look to potentially take some long-term shorts, right? But at the moment we're bullish, and it seems we've tapped into a daily demand. Okay, and currently we have to scale down to the lower time frame to see exactly what we're dealing with. Okay, so market is fractal. Daily internal structure is a 4-hour break of swing structure. All right, so this is the range of price action that we're currently dealing with on the 4-hour time frame. Now we've tapped into this daily demand. All right, and well, so far I think if we take a look at it, we can see that we've tapped into this 4-hour demand zone. Actually, we tapped into it initially. There was a push up. There was a, I would call this a change of character at this point. I wouldn't go so far as to call it an internal break of structure, because it wasn't, if we're following the mechanical process. But after this push up, we had price coming here, and we saw something, some sort of liquidation, if you will, actually cause a setup here. And so the way we confirmed the liquidation was when this, I'd say, mini supply zone here failed. All right, let's just use this when it failed, right? So, but currently we haven't exactly confirmed realignment. For me, this is a very strong buy model that I normally use, liquidation, failure. So there's a possibility that we could possibly see price break this high and even eventually go for this high, right? But keeping the higher time frame objective at the back of our minds, we know that the expectation is that we could possibly see a bearish realignment from this area. All right, yeah, we could see that. And there are two other potential points of interest to look out for on the 4-hour in case price decides to come a bit lower, is this 4-hour overlap zone here. Okay, and this fair value gap that we have right here. All right, so we have a fair value gap here that price might decide to tap into and then continue to the upside, possibly. All right, so let's move over to Euro US dollar, last but not least. All right, so very similar to GBPUSD. We already know that we broke swing structure at this point on the weekly time frame. Again, we already know that we pulled back for a while, okay? And actually, this was the supply zone that caused the failure of this demand zone here, right? That caused the break of internal structure, if you will, okay? Also, it's pretty much an order block because it was the last bullish candle before the push downwards, okay? So we broke the internal structure at this point, and so far we've been pulling back within this range of internal price action on the weekly time frame. Now, if we scale down to the daily time frame, we're going to see that this internal break of structure here was actually our daily break of swing structure. So this is our daily range of price action, right? So from our previous video, we know that we had tapped into this daily supply zone here, and afterwards we broke internal structure to the downside. But so far, what we're really seeing is price tapping into this. Now, this isn't, if you look at, I think the last two videos, you're going to see where we talked about the possibility of price tapping into this zone and potentially getting some fuel for a pullback, right? And the reason we talked about that is not just because of the existence of these demands on here, but also because, remember, we had an unmitigated discount zone, right? So price tapped into the unmitigated discount zone. Now, our theory was that it would provide enough juice for a potential pullback, then a continuation. But so far, what we've seen is that price has now broken. Sorry about this. Oops. Price has now broken internal structure to the upside, okay? So right now, we don't have bearish realignment anymore in terms of internal structure. What we have is price currently pushing up. However, we're still in the premium zone and we're still within this leg of price action. So we have to keep that in mind. Price could decide to take a reaction from any one of these supply zones, any one of them, right? But at the moment, internal structure is bullish. So I wouldn't be so big on swinging for the fences in terms of longs. But of course, if you're a scalper, intraday scalper, or you trade the lower time frames, then definitely you should already know that you will find opportunities, right, to play even both sides while the bigger moves are happening in the market. Now, if you look at the 4-hour time frame very quickly, we're going to see that this was our last break of swing structure. And at this point, we had a bullish break of swing structure. All right. Stay tuned to this space because very soon you'll be able to map structure just the way I do. Stay tuned to the market series space. If you haven't already, go and check out the first video on the fundamentals of market structure and stay tuned to the space, basically. Okay, so now we had sort of like a mini pullback. I'm just taking it out. Yeah, sort of like a mini pullback on the 4-hour after this break of swing structure. However, we didn't exactly tap into the discount area. What we did was something very similar to what we saw on GBPUSD. We tapped into this demand zone here and price ended up, moving up. So I would say, yeah, this is a break of internal structure to the upside. So 4-hour internal structure is bullish, right? But I wouldn't consider this a swing pullback. It's just the way I map structure mechanically. But the idea is that 4-hour internal structure is still bullish. Now remember what I told you. When we are in a bullish, when we're in a bullish condition, right? Already existing supply zones will most likely provide juice for pullbacks. So since internal structure is still bullish, you might see price get into this daily supply zone, break internal structure and initiate the forward pullback for a potential continuation or a breakout structure and realignment. And that's pretty much that for that. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and have a great week. All right. Love you guys. Bye.